Energy that means business.
Welcome back. Here's a question for you. What's Facebook worth? Well, if you believe the hype at the moment, about £60 billion. So is it really worth it, or is it another dot-com bubble about to burst? Well, joining me now to discuss the flotation is the co-founder of lastminute.com, Brent Hoberman, of course, and US business expert, board chair and non-exec director, Lucy Marcus. Very good morning to you both. I mean, same question for you both. I say £60 billion, about just under $100 billion. Can anything be worth that much money? That, as I say, you can't touch it. You've got to imagine, you can see it, but it doesn't really exist apart from on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, and the same can be said for Google, though, in that sense, which has clearly proven that it's gone up about 4 times since its IPO price, or maybe more than that. I think Facebook has a lot of assets in it, and it has had this incredible revenue growth. So it is making a lot of money from advertising. But the question is, to be able to be worth this, what they've got to do now is actually be able to make money from mobile, which they haven't worked out yet. So that's a big challenge.
Because they are saying so much of its business is migrating to mobile.
Yeah, actually, they've sort of almost issued a profits warning saying, uh-oh, mobile's doing so well, and we can't make money on mobile yet. Yet. I still think they will work out ways. But the other thing is, the option value or the belief in what else they can do with this platform of 900 million people, and what else can they sell? Can they become a retailer? Can they sell mobile phones? Can they manage all our communications? Lots of things they haven't even started yet. So the buzz on Silicon Valley on them is basically, they don't care yet about revenues. Don't worry about the fact they only made $4 billion of revenue. They haven't started yet.
Well, part of those ideas, Ray, I want to discuss them in a moment or two, Brent, but Lucy, first of all, on the price. I mean, and I say, is it worth that much? Of course, it's going to be oversubscribed, we hear, so could have charged more. We expect the share price to go up when it's...
Well, some reports say oversubscribed, some reports say...
some say,
Read Reuters,
that's part of the hype
thing, and
beforehand.
Bloomberg, it says something else. I mean, that was what was going around on Twitter the other day, is, who's paying what, who's doing what. Really, it's in some ways, it's not about the today, as Brent's saying, it's about the tomorrow. And it's what people are willing to pay. And part of the issue is, once it goes out there, of course, it will spike and so on, but will it remain steady, or will it do what Groupon has done and so on, and sort of begin to peter out? Part of my concern when I look at Facebook is it's a brilliant company, there's a lot of potential there, but what are they doing about building stability, not just for this year, but 10 years, 20 years down the road? And they hold a lot of power. Yeah. And are they going to wield that power in a responsible way?
But given those questions, you both raised them now. I mean, and Brent, I say you've been through the experience with Last Minute, and I mean, a roller coaster ride in terms of the values as well. Well, it lost 95% of its value. Went back up again and then sold it. We're not here to discuss that, but it informs the Facebook discussion in terms of the founders, and we know Mr. Zuckerberg at the head of all that. Does this, in a way, dilute their control and their vision? And this has been so much about that up to this point.
I mean, the amazing point, as Lucy was saying, is that he still owns basically 57% of the voting control. So he's absolutely in control. He doesn't own that much shares, but of the voting control, he's got it. So he just makes decisions and doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. I personally, unlike Lucy, think that's great for the value of Facebook, actually, because I think the maverick CEO, the founder CEO, the guy with the initial passion, the vision, the ability to react very, very quickly, is the person best placed to make those decisions for long term.
Okay, but I mean, what about the corporate suited shareholders? Come on the board, and didn't we see it? Years ago, Steve Jobs, Apple, the creative maverick falls out with the company. It's not his company
bring the
anymore.
Sexy back to the business. Here's the issue with that. I find the juxtaposition of what we've seen in the past month with the annual general meetings and the shareholder spring, and at the same time where you had institutional investors talking about too much control, bad decision making, remuneration, diversity in the boardroom, and yet what you would expect from new companies doing exciting new things, that they would actually reflect new ways of thinking in corporate governance and boards. We're seeing actually a complete throwback to an old time. It's looking much more like News International than it is what we're talking about in the rest of the world.
News International is trying to look a lot more like Facebook. I mean,
well, no, but in the boardroom, they're looking pretty much the same. Same kind of centralized control, board that actually doesn't have a lot of say. The Instagram decision was made without any board consultation.
This is the $1 billion they played for a photo sharing
exactly.
site.
And they That was a deal done in the garden or wherever it was done at his house, and the board had nothing to say about that. And the thing is this, it's not about, again, what happens today. Mark Zuckerberg, he's a genius. I mean, he's brilliant at what he does, and part of what I look at is also, can he grow as a leader? So as a CEO, is he going to learn these new skills about running a public company different than running a private company?
With those questions, and if they're not answered, let me put this to you, having been through it, Brent, is another dot-com bubble about to build? You mentioned, at a much smaller scale, the Instagram deal, $1 billion for something which two guys came up with in their bedroom.
Had no revenue, it's not a bubble bursting, there's no threat of what we had last time, because the companies that are public now are mainly leaders in their field, mainly, not always. And there aren't that many of them. It's not like before where 10 companies were valued in every sector as if they were going to be winners. That's really what went wrong in 2000. So that's not happening. Yes, but could some of the edge come off? I think that is the worry, and that's why this Facebook IPO is, and the valuation is important, actually. Because personally, as just somebody who wants the industry to do well, I don't want it to go out too high, because I just want it to keep up there. I don't want it to be the moment where suddenly everyone is saying, oh my God, because sentiment and psychology is very important.
And very important in terms of Facebook, people who use Facebook, isn't it, in terms of their perception of it. I mean, it's been on the outside, now it's corporate, and a lot of people who use Facebook are saying, well, we don't like the society you're not part of.
That's the issue, is really Facebook is more than just a technology company. It's a global phenomenon. It impacts most of us as consumers. I'm on Facebook. We're friends on Facebook. The shareholders' spring and other big discussions happen on Facebook and Twitter. There are issues around privacy concerns and so on, all held in the hands of one chap. And the question is, how are they going to grow, and how are these decisions made, and are they just being made by one person? And if we don't like those decisions, I suppose we can vote with our feet, but there's a lot of control in one, or with a click.
Well, listen, come back in 6 months' time and we'll see how it's gone. Fascinating discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having us.
And Brent Hoberman there on the Facebook flotation. Now, still to come on Murnaghan, we've got the Shadow Defence Secretary, Jim Murphy, on the government's fighter jet U-turn in those aircraft carriers. The end of Merkozy. How will the German Chancellor get on with the new French President, Francois Hollande, this week? And why is our country still run by people who went to public schools? I'll be talking to Nadine Dorries, Nigel Farage and Lord Adonis. Stay with us.
This morning over the Himalayas, warm sunlight will